We just finished the Unified Science course from residonscience.org.
Yeah, with Nassim Harriman's Resident Science Foundation. Yeah, and so this is the last of the free, like they give you it's pretty intensive actually. It's like a 6-module, and these modules are not short. Like it takes you a couple days to go through each one. I mean, there's lots of reading,
They have lots of sections to each. Yeah, some videos, reading, a lot of material. It's definitely, it's a full course for sure. And you can watch our other videos to see 1 through 5 where we break down what's in each of those sections in case you don't want to go through the entire course.
And I'm sure if they're watching this one at all, it's because they've watched the other ones or they took the course themselves. So, hey, are you guys? But anyway, okay, so this is sort of just like our cliff notes of our impressions and the things that stuck with us during that. So I did like they always be the change that you wish to see in the world by Gandhi. They put that in there. I was like, okay, yes, I like it. So like, I'm just going to go through some of my notes here, but
yeah, you do that.
So this is like,
what did you get the most out of it? What was this section for you? What were your key points?
This is going to sound like really, like my overall impression of this section, this is a horrible thing to say, but it almost felt like it was like a lead up to like coming up to why the science of the ArkCrystals was amazing. And have you've ever seen A Christmas Story? How there's like Ralphie and okay,
it's that time of year.
Yeah, it's that time of year. But Ralphie, like, it's like some special decoder, and he's like doing this stuff with the radio all the time is to get in there, and it's like before to take your Ovaltine, and he's like Ovaltine. Kind of like,
oh my God, so
that feeling,
that like build up.
Yeah, that build up kind of, that same like emotional feeling I kind of have for this. I was like, and they want you to buy $1,000 crystal with magnets on it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a little bit kind of how I felt. But okay, so but there were cool things. It wasn't all like wah wah. But I can go into why I think the crystal is wah wah. But anyway, I still kind of, if it was given to me, I would love it. I would take it, and I would pay for it if it was not, you know,
$5,000 for the highest price one.
Or even the cheapest one is what, just under 1,000 or something. It's like, okay, I don't care if it had to grow in a lab for 2 years. I mean, like it.
Right. Okay. So let's talk about the crystals since we're talking about them anyway. Okay, so the crystals are lab grown crystals, and they're geometrically perfect. They have to be carved perfectly. First of all, grown perfectly and then carved perfectly. It's a precision. There were a lot of prototypes before they finally got the models that they were happy with, which are geometric, like sacred geometry crystals. So what else about them? They're supposed to help.
Well, I have my notes that I took about them. It's like, okay, so they're $1,200. That's like the base price. They're supposed to be talking about like piezoelectricity, which is like compression of, like you compress like you know how orgonite kind of works. The property, paleoelectricity, the property of change of charge polarization under mechanical stress or deformation. And then to show piezoelectricity, a crystal must have no center of symmetry. And then there was first used in sonars in 1917. Okay, and then so it says like the precision geometric quartz, which is AKA synthetic. That's what I'm like, okay. And I'm like a quartz miner, guys, like, and like I'm into that stuff. Like, and how do you synthetically grow CiO2? Okay, so like technically, how do they do that? And it's just like Swarovski crystals, right? It is the same stuff as sand. CiO2 is like quartz is the most common abundant mineral in the world. So it's like, you know, underneath the right pressure, they grow it in a lab. They do that for chandeliers, for everything, all the way around. Like there's no way to get it any more perfect than it already grows like that, you know? I mean, yeah, to cut it great, okay, but like they mass manufacture stuff in China for, I mean, like you know, don't piss on me and tell me it's raining. Or, you know, kind of exactly that.
I mean, I guess, I like those crystals, and I like the fact that it is made in a lab. It kind of goes against my natural.
Yeah, I mean, and this says that the process takes 2.5 years, and I'm like, to grow, because that's okay. I don't know how they gotta explain that to me, but and then you cut the crystals to be a tetrahedron shape to be in an optimal harmonic resonance with water. Okay, and then how can they just be cut in certain dimensions, like to create how can it just be cut in certain dimensions to create piezoelectric effect? Because I was under the impression that, like, so is that just saying that the deformation of the cut, like, is having no center of symmetry? Like, that doesn't make sense to me, because piezoelectricity, from my understanding, has been when there's a stress put on it. And so therefore there's a pulsation that's happening because of this constant stress, not just by the cut of the stone. And then so I was saying, like, wouldn't you have to apply external mechanical stress? So that was kind of, and then I just kind of felt like total sales pitch. And then, like, the titanium, even the way the magnets are placed on it, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of detail to positive, negative sides. I mean, they're like round bar magnets, which wouldn't be, I don't know. Anyway, like, I'm sure they're great, because they show them putting them against, like, plants, and that the plants grow with the crystals versus not. And that it increases the pH balance of water and to lower desirable salts. You know, so I mean, anyway, they have a little bit of science behind, like, hey, that these are kind of marketed as almost like free energy pulsars that make your health better and everything around it better. But I don't know. I just, like I said, I got the Ovaltine feeling about it.
Yeah. You know what, I did that section so long ago from our conversation that's not the thing that stood with me the most. But I see what you're saying. But I definitely felt that there was, like, the sales pitch in there with the, because it is their product, and that it just is conveniently located in the course. So I did feel that. But on the other hand, I was like, I wasn't hung up on it. I didn't feel like that was my only takeaway, or that was the takeaway. I had actually almost completely forgotten about it until looking over my notes on it also. But I was wondering, like, when I was reading it, I remember thinking, why can't I just be doing this regularly, either through intention with water molecules, or quartz that you can find everywhere, like you said? Like, why? Because it's a perfect tetrahedron, or is it because like that the crystal itself is tetrahedron? I don't know, but I remember thinking, I felt like this was something that could be more accessible. Maybe it wouldn't be as quote unquote perfect, but it still is. You could program water, you could program water molecules. I mean, we've seen that work done with Dr. Emoto, right? With water molecules. So why not? I don't know. But
yeah.
But I didn't get.
You're not going to change the world with a $1,200 crystal. I mean, maybe, but yeah. So okay, but, like, let's go back to the other notes. Okay, so then you know, I also let's talk about the Tom Bearden, the PhD guy, because I watched it a while ago. I remember he made a good impression on me, but you rewatched it right now, so.
Yes. So this was actually one of the main takeaways for me, which goes to everything. All energy is found in the field. So the entire field, everything that is the field, and they're extrapolating energy from it, or learning how to do that at this point. And he's either an advisor for, or researcher for, military and NASA projects, which are basically asking him, how can they, well, at some point when they want to change over to, let's say, regular fuel, or whatever energy source they're using for whatever it is they have, like an aircraft carrier, for example, they want to switch over to this other energy, which is basically, he said, everything is found in the field. So that, to me, is unified physics, that like here we are, we get like, you know, this air that is around us is full of energy, and we could energize everything. Something small, like pretty much he compared using a coffee cup, and how like the energy of the entire universe is within a coffee cup, an empty coffee cup, by the way. So I was like, wow, you know, that is amazing. So that to me is like making the switch from going to the earth using all of these either non-renewable resources or resources that we have, when we really are just wasting our time with that, and we need to be looking into the field for energy source and or whatever it is, either a space travel or just energy, using it as energy here. So that's his big thing.
Well, yeah, and I wrote in my notes that he has this thing about how nature doesn't insist on conserving energy in 3D, but she works in 4D, and that the dipoles, like permanent magnets, like negative entropy. So you have to engineer the negative entropy.
Right. Poles don't get destroyed. No,
right, which it says is solved by Whittaker in 1903. So like it talks about Overunity is a closed system energy generation, but so this, a large section of this was about free energy, being able to, like, you know, if you think about it, like our Earth has a system that works like the water, you know, it evaporates, it goes in the clouds, gathers, it rains down, and it goes, it does its stuff, goes down into the groundwater, then when, I mean, you know, it's like a cycle. That it's a song that never ends. It's a closed system. It's great. But like forever in physics, there has been the argument that there's, you know, there is no such thing as a closed system. There's always, you know, there's always like energy loss or whatever. So yes, that was really pretty. And I do remember, like, even studying this section, I got dreams about like that waterfall thing I showed you, where, let's see, actually, maybe that was, you know, do you remember this was like a dream I had right before I left Mexico, but it was like, you know, how there was like how the water would fall and then it would go into get caught into a funnel and then swirl up to the thing that goes and drops it, and, you know, like a perpetuating like energy pump thing, which I'm sure like maybe exists or something, or could be used on a smaller scale. But either way, I think even just listening to ideas of these things makes your brain start like thinking of other possibilities.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And empty space is not empty. It's electromagnetic in nature. Energy density is very high, even everywhere we are. Energy density is very high. So yes, exactly. The dreaming is limitless. And that's what I love about it, actually. That's what I love about quantum, the whole unified physics, or this new physics that we're talking about. That this energy can be tapped into. We're on the verge of this whole new understanding of what energy is. I don't know. It's pretty cool.
Oh, I remember that guy talked about how like Tesla's nephew was alive and he like rode in a car with him. I thought that was interesting. But then also it talks about like you know, the speed of light, energy flow problem.
Oh, the speed of light.
Yeah.
Oh, right. That was another point that stuck with me at one of the last part of the module was the speed of light, and then getting into wormholes, which I thought was pretty cool. And space memory, yeah. But these wormholes, which was the last thing that really stood out for me, was, okay, so like if you think of, let's say you have a flat piece of paper and you accordion it, and then you put a hole through the middle of it, like you're traveling the distance of this flat paper faster through this wormhole than as if it was like actually flat, because then you'd have to get from point A to point B. The end of the piece of paper, it would take you longer because it's like all this area that you would have to cover, rather than this accordion style that would just had a hole through it and then you would just cover it really quick. Like that's the wormhole. So I was thinking when he was talking about the traveling at the speed of light or like traveling beyond it. I was wondering if he never actually came out and said wormholes.
There is actually, they were saying that radiation comes faster than the speed of light. Like, I mean,
yeah.
And I mean, like, just like our entire science, I mean, just this entire belief that there's nothing faster than the speed of light just is, I've always thought that that's false. Just manipulation and false. Yeah, it's just like,
yeah. Well, that there's actually a point that's referenced in this section about that's not exactly true. It's true to an extent of like maybe we can't travel faster than the speed of light, but I don't know. I don't remember that.
Well, I mean, yeah, and then they had the guy, Claude Poirier, the National Press Club, and he's like 15% of UFOs are really unexplained, and then you have the French NASA UFO researcher officially talking, about observations of occupants and on these. I mean, so they went into a little bit of the UFOs and going like, well, what are they doing there? Like, what is their anti-gravity?
Yeah. What is their energy what's their anti-gravity?
Which is cool because
cool.
I love conversations where it's not like you have to be like, okay, UFOs are real. Let me provide the evidence for you to believe they're real. Because it's like you always have to start from that. And it's like, I'm so over that. I want to go from, okay, well, what are they doing to do these things? I like how they didn't even try to convince us that they're real or not. They're like, yeah, okay, so they're real. But so like this is, they're doing something that is defying our current
technology.
Gravity.
Yeah. Well, that was one of the things I liked about the Tom Bearden guy, because he's working with NASA and again military personnel with their projects, and he said that same thing as like matter of fact, like that's not even a question. Like we're just trying to figure out like UFOs technology. It was never like, oh, whether we should tell the public that there are UFOs. That was just a given. That they were just trying to understand what UFOs were using with their anti-gravity. Exactly.
Right.
So that was cool.
Yeah, so they do talk a little bit about zero-point energy, and then electromagnetic drives or EM drives, and then magnetic hyprodynamic plasma device. And that's something that Harman himself is patenting. So that's kind of cool. I didn't know it, and I thought, was that sort of like the lead into the crystals, or what was that exactly? Because
I remember.
And then they had this like Russian guy, this Dr. Eugene Podkletnov. He's a Russian ceramics engineer, and he's modifying local gravity fields, and then like so gravitational shielding, and if a thing is spinning or magnified, floating, how do you weigh it? So like there was basically they were losing weight of stuff by its spin, and so that so that was a really interesting thing, and that was called the Coriolis effect. I don't know. I don't remember. Anyway,
maybe that's written down in my notes.
I think that is like really frustrating, is like you go and you look up and you research. I started researching this Eugene Podkletnov. I don't know. His last name is spelled Podkletnov. I don't know how you would say that, but you find very limited, stuff on it. So, and it's kind of a lot of, anytime you read Wikipedia about anything that's free energy or anything that's a little bit alternative, they just present everything like, this whack job did XYZ, and
That's funny, because the other day I was watching something and I saw this guy. It was on, I guess it was like one of those Facebook videos, and I wasn't listening to it. I just was reading it as the video was playing. And he was like one of the main guys that edits and adds to and checks over Wikipedia. This guy that lives in Virginia. And I just was like I forgot how many thousands, like hundreds, not hundreds, of like tens of thousands of pieces of material he's reviewed Wikipedia. And I was like, why does everything come down to this guy? Like, just because he likes to research and go to the library? Like, everyone's got their biases. Shouldn't it be like, I don't know, more than that? But anyway, it's just funny that you mentioned that, because that's
Yeah, I have a friend that contributes to Wikipedia a lot, and they like pride themselves on it. And it's just like, it ends up kind of being like, okay, well, so we're basically getting this encyclopedia of the world, you know, kind of fact checked by very small percentage of people.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and this guy was going to libraries and stuff, like doing some research on the internet as well, but like a lot of it, he was going to libraries, but I was like, thank God somebody's going to a freaking library nowadays. But like, but anyway, still, there's definitely biases everywhere. How do you know that, like, what this person, where, I don't know, it's questionable.
Yeah, and the Overunity system, which they keep on calling it instead of free energy, which is clever or nice or good or whatever. Maybe I should just call them that. But they said that there's 50 inventors that went over Overunity systems, and the Russians before the 1942, and then there's paramedic oscillators. Suppression of this area is from the world's cartels, and that they find vulnerabilities and exploit people. So, and I've definitely, I've been researching free energy stuff for a long time, and it's always like a story. It's like, oh yeah, they invented this cool machine, and then their lab, all they
disappears. Somebody,
yeah, he dies, serious cancer, or whacked off, or something, or his entire lab was
suicide.
Yeah, suicide.
Usual story.
Yeah, same sort of thing.
Just disappears. Yeah, it's crazy how much that was a great listen too. Yeah, it talks about. Did you remember the part about the types of civilizations? I just was
but it's the
graduation
Kardashev Scale. So like you have we're apparently 0 type humans, and you go all the way up to where people have, you know, type 3 civilizations where they're able to use all of the energy of their star. So it's like they have a Dyson sphere around the star, which is like a giant city that is a globe that's around the city. Now that's just a sci-fi. That's literally is a science fiction.
Yeah, the whole thing was.
The whole theory, which so I don't know how much value I hold and what type of society we are not, especially if if we don't really even understand what consciousness is. So we don't understand our own insignificance or power even. We don't really know.
Well, and also this whole, okay, so we're a 0 civilization, maybe going into a 1 civilization, which means basically we can exit our planet, and stay within our solar system and visit with other planets in our solar system, which is what we're pretty much between 0 and 1, I guess, right now. But that's an excellent point. Like, just so they did kind of mention, all right, so our DNA is going to change. Like, what is it going to look like? They briefly mentioned technology and DNA as like how that's going to change in these different civilizations, and what we would, not even what we would need, just that it would change going on into these different civilizations. For me, it reminded me of like these dimensions and how we talk about dimensions all the time. Like, what dimension is this? So it reminded me of like civilizations, somewhat like these other dimensions. But you bring up a good point about the consciousness, because it's like, well, what are the factors? So I guess consciousness, at least in intelligence, would have to raise in order for us to go on to the next level of civilization. But beyond that, what about like other types of consciousnesses?
They even, and later in the module, they even go and talk about like towards the very last like the very end, they talk about like cellular membrane and the cryoskeleton, and about how, you know, consciousness is not just involved in the brain, but it's also in the connective tissue too. And yeah, like we know from like when I read the multidimensional universe theory or whatever, consciousness is not localized. It's not like you can give a person a lobotomy to different parts of their brains or whatever, and we don't even know where memory is stored within the brain. Like it's it's kind of like we really don't understand why it is that these meat package vessels can even think it. We don't understand consciousness. And I feel like to go from like, we don't understand our own consciousness or even like why we dream, to then go like, well, we're only at a 0 type planet, but eventually we're beginning to go to type 1, but we can go all the way up to type 2 and type 3. And you're kind of going like, man, that's just like speculation, and then circle jerking around speculation on speculation on speculation.
Right, exactly.
It's just like, you know,
yeah.
I mean,
anybody could.
It's a nice thought experiment, but it's also
that's what it was.
Empowering. Yeah, it's a thought experiment, but it's I don't know. I don't find what value it is in that. Like,
right, like where was this in the rest of that? I don't remember what it was around, but I do remember thinking, okay, well, that's an interesting thought, but what else today? Let me just briefly check what I put. Yeah, except for the fact that I liked that there was some kind, for me, it was, well, are these civilizations related to consciousness? Because that there was this other dimensional aspect of it. But again, it's all theory. I mean, it's all whatever. We could talk about it over a fire and some like bond, you know, like whatever.
Right.
You know, it doesn't matter.
But you know, I still. I mean, I did like that they brought in some UFOs, and they like that Tom Bearden dude was super interesting. He brought up Dr. Hal Puthoff, you know, who's like kind of big in the UFO world, and he talks about the Lamb shift energy is everywhere kind of thing. So they had some great points and great stuff, and overall I enjoyed this course immensely.
Oh, you know what? At the end, the last point is warp drive physically possible. Warp drive. Yeah. So this was again with the wormholes. So I had some questions. Are wormholes and black holes the same, but on micro and macro levels? They kind of briefly led to that, but I wasn't sure if that's what that was actually being said. To me, it seemed like it was.
I mean,
and then there was this whole warping bubble of space. I loved that though. That was like when you push something out, like when you propel something from behind, so it pushes it out and it like gets this little bubble around it, right? So all these things that are traveling through space are traveling in these little bubbles, and I thought, oh, well, that's what orbs are, you know, like it kind of actually explained orbs. So that's another thing that I liked about all this, because it's starting to explain the unexplainable natural like phenomenon that we have all witnessed at some point. So it could be, these little bubbles.
I mean, I feel like, I guess I kind of feel like black holes, warm drive. I mean, I don't know. I kind of, I think it's just good theory for now, but until we know how to use that in application, okay. But I mean, it's great to think about for sure.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you watched the video with this guy who I wish I could even explain it. I just remember he was doing an experiment with like a very small level, but there was this new equation that was found. Okay, I can't even explain it all. But this other guy was trying to put this theory to the test, and the experiment was that there were these two small boats in water, and that, you know, if you have one boat and you put a wave through and there was like really rough water, it would shake a lot, right? The boat would move. But if you have these two boats pretty close together and you do the same thing, like if it was the same turbulence in the water between the boats would actually cancel out, and these boats would move together towards each other, creating this energy between them. So this is what this guy did prove, actually on a very, very small level. And he was saying that, like, I don't know, maybe it was on the Planck level, but anyway, he was saying like that this is actually, okay, that was the first proven experiment of that original theory that had basically been published in journals. So I think that, yes, it's all, something that we could just talk about and say whatever, but it's actually starting to happen on small levels with this experiment, for an example, and it's starting to get proven.
Yeah, I mean, and I hope that they do continue to grow it and do more with it. I think that'd be good.
It's cool. I mean, overall, this course for me was good. I think, as I mentioned to you off the camera another time, that I think I would like to just explore any of these themes that I found interesting, like wormholes or Westminster Fuller, like I didn't know about him before,
Yeah.
like just to explore more of. That's what it brought to me, or just to think things differently. But yeah, it's a lot of information. And I don't know how much detail one needs to really go into, but a lot of it's there. I think that's why it's out there. That's why it's free. And I encourage people to go and look at the modules and just pick out what's interesting for you.
Yeah. And I mean, I do think it's nice to know that there's other, like, you know, working intelligent scientists out there that are not just only in the given narrative. Like, you know, we don't live in a draconian society. I mean, like there are Galileos trying to, like, you know, actually discover things, which is nice, because part of me felt like we lived in like almost like a fatalist world that was just like, this is what it is. And, you know, I'm a little sick of that in a lot of ways. So so that was,
it does
really
present
cool.
a new model.
It does present a new model. And encourages people to, you know, be interested in it, communicate with them. Like, and that's the thing about it. They had Zoom sessions that went on with this. Like you can,
they're very accessible.
They're very accessible. They're very involved. Like if you have questions about anything, if you want to get into it, like this is even something that I think like a high school kid could do too.
Definitely. I was thinking the same thing. It's a good, if somebody's interested in physics or anyway, or this at all, any level,
well,
it's
any level, but but like high school and above, you know, I mean, and it was also a great review of physics and some basic science things for us. Like at one point, like there was models on that. It brought a lot of, cool stuff in. And I loved.
And also, if you think of it, and we're changing from a new model, if we're changing from an old model to a new model, this is really just baby steps here at the beginning, and everything's just going to catch on eventually. So we have to just like, I think it's starting to change. Like the tides are turning, the waves are going like in this direction, and because the masses are interested in it, you know, so it can be accessible. Well, why does it have to be somebody that's so, you know, outside of the regular person? Oh, we could all have at least investigate, and everybody has the potential to learn more about it. Why not? And contribute.
Right. Yeah. I mean, thank you, Harriman, or Nassim Harriman, everybody, for making this a super cool course. And, you know, maybe one day, you know, when I feel like dropping $1,200, I'll buy a crystal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
definitely.
So resonance
that's science. That. Go and check it out if you have it, or tell us what you think if you have.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That's why we did this. So
cool. See you next time.
Bye. Oh, and subscribe.